Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, sweetheart, kindly smash that subscribe button, turn on the notification so you get notified each time I upload. And please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all so much, and I am saying massive shout out to every one of you for all the love and support you all give me here. I am truly grateful. Thank you. So today we'll be talking something very important, and it's about these Asian ladies being cancelled. Aquafina and Nina, right? They said growing up with and around black people is the engineer of what they are like giving the world about black people. And this is her interpretation, right? That she grew up in Queens, New York, where people sound and behave a certain, like where black people sound and behave a certain way. So that is the reason why they sound and behave a certain way too, right? And culture in appropriation. And they are making money out of this, right? And black people are calling them out on their bullshit. Not just only black people, even Asian people too are calling them out on their bullshit, because it is bullshit and BS, and telling them to stop that bullshit because it is rain and season. You know what? Stay good to the screen. I am going to roll this clip. We'll come back to talk about it. And I absolutely want to read all your comments. Let me know what you all think. And straight up, I am rolling the clip.
Your valid experience of growing up with and around black people is not the architect nor the engineer to whatever this is that you're giving the world online and in the movies and in the public. That's not black folks. That's your interpretation of black folks. People like Aquafina or even Nina here on TikTok talk about how they grew up in Queens, New York around other black people who sound and behave a certain way, and so that's why they sound and behave a certain way. And while some, maybe even many black folks who grew up in and around Queens, New York may behave and sound that way, those black folks' range isn't limited to just that. And I think that's where I've landed on this issue. That is the issue of Asian people who sound and behave like certain black people that we know from the streets. I've said it on here before, Asians who grew up in the hood do exist. But the hood and the streets aren't the only places where these black people who influence these Asian people exist. These influential neighborhood black people don't roll up on their grandma and be like, "Break yourself, fool," because they probably get their asses whooped. As such, black people know how to code switch, and we're not talking about just in school or in corporate America. Knowing that black people exist in a multitude of ways, I would dare say that a lot of you who present like Aquafina and Nina in public and online would not present that same way to your moms, your aunties, your uncles, and your grandparents. So while you're saying you grew up around black people in and around New York City, did you go to their houses? Did you see how they interact with their parental guardians? Was it the same way that they acted in the hallways at school or at the movies? Or when y'all went out to eat, or any other time when you weren't in the presence of those parental figures? So don't tell us that's how you act all of the time, because that's not how the people that influenced you act all of the time. Let's just be honest about it. You probably code switch with your Asian grandparents and parents. And if we can agree on that, then we have to talk about how it's harmful to claim that you've been so influenced and behave a certain way using only a surface level interpretation of the people you're emulating. For one, it looks like your understanding of the people you grew up around is very shallow if your claim is, "I grew up around these people and so this is the way that I present all of the time." But that's not the way you present all of the time, and we both know it. Don't lie to us and don't lie to yourself. Those same black people who influenced you when you were growing up, they have their telephone voice, they act different at a funeral, they act different when they have to meet with their boss, and they definitely don't talk to their mamas a certain kind of way. So your entire personality cannot be based on the few personality traits that you get from them by knowing them publicly and in the world. All black people are fluid and diverse.
Aquafina did break barriers, but she did it by appropriating black culture, and I don't think it's fair to ask the people who are harmed and offended by that to give her a free pass because we don't have a lot of representation. And if we support her and her appropriation of black culture, then it's not surprising that we're going to get called out on our racism. And we are being called out on our racism, not the racism of our older generation, because we are able to know better than to support problematic behavior. And it is our responsibility to help our older generation, particularly those with language barrier issues, to become aware of social justice concerns and to unlearn anti-blackness. I get what you're saying about children of immigrant parents for whom English is a second language are often mimics. You've mentioned it's true for you, it's true for me to a certain degree. But if you look at her videos where she's doing rap and hip hop, she's not collaborating with other Black artists. Most of the people who show up in her video are white or Asian. So in that case, she doesn't have a Black scent because she's immersed in the culture. Also, where she grew up is over 50% white, nearly a quarter Asian, and less than 3% Black. So this idea that she may have a Black scent because she was around Black people a lot is just not factual. It's a stereotype about life in New York City. But she talks about the Asian kids who were in her neighborhood when she was growing up. Same thing with the high school that she went to. It's over 40% white, over 20% Asian, and less than 10% Black. Also, she talks about her undying love of hip hop, but in interviews, when asked about her inspiration, she names white authors and white musicians. I don't see her acknowledging Black musicians that she appreciates who informed her work. And finally, because Asian Americans have so little representation, for me personally, I don't want to be represented by somebody who makes their name and profit off of appropriating Black culture. That's not how I want other people seeing Asian American culture, and that's not what I want inspiring the next generation of Asian American artists. I loved her portrayal of Billy in The Farewell. I felt like that was me when I first moved to New York City, and actually something very similar happened to me. So I saw myself represented in that, and it tells a story of our culture. So I would love if she pursued more of that. And this doesn't have to cancel her career or mean that she's going to be labeled a monster forever. She can acknowledge that it's a choice and take accountability for it being a bad choice, and we can move on. But if Asian Americans are going to continue to make excuses and justifications for her, then we're going to be called out on letting her poor choice expose our anti-Blackness. And it's our racial prejudice, not our older generation's racial prejudice, ours. Because it is our choice to let people know, is this how we want to be represented or not?
Your valid experience of growing up with and around Black people is not the architect.
Hi, as an actual Black person from Queens who didn't grow up with the tools to actually deal with racism, so actively repressed their Blackness, we don't sound like Aquafina. No one who is Black from Queens sounds like Aquafina. Even if we've implemented AAVE into our vocabulary, we still don't have a Black scent that is reminiscent of what Aquafina sounds like. Honestly, if Aquafina's accent is reminiscent of anything, it reminds me of the Asian girls, specifically like the mainland Chinese girls that used to put on Black scents and make fun of Black people when I was like going to school in Flushing and stuff, so yeah. Also, I'm originally from Jackson Heights, even though I've moved around Queens several times.
Your valid experience of growing up with and around Black people is not the architect.
The Stitched creator is talking about Aquafina, and one of her favorite excuses for the way she talks, which she calls a Black scent. For the record, it's not a Black scent, she's appropriating AAV. Anyway, she says she grew up around a lot of Black folks, and she comes from this neighborhood in Queens called Forest Hills, which you may not be familiar with, but I am because my brother lives there. So I've been to Forest Hills many, many times, and not a big Black population, so I frankly don't understand where she's getting that from. Next point being, me as an autistic, I sometimes end up mimicking and parroting the accents of people around me. I have done it to certain friends before, but you know what the difference between me and Aquafina is? One of us tries not to do it, and one of us does not profit off of it. Now, this isn't so much about Aquafina as it is about the prevalently large problem of K-pop and Korean hip-hop and Korean rappers appropriating Black culture. I know I've talked about it before, but today I have a fresh new viewpoint to offer you. A lot of people say that, oh, it's because Korea isn't diverse, they don't really know that it's appropriation, this, that, and the other. Let me provide you with a counterpoint that I came up with today. Now, in Korea, there is a city called Busan. It is one of the southernmost cities in Korea. Now, like other southernmost cities, Busan has a very, very heavy accent. Why is that important? Well, historically and currently, Busan is known as a hotspot for gang activity, also known as Pe0ple. It's also seen in a lot of movies. There's a really famous movie called 친구 or friend in Korean, and like a really famous line of dialogue, 우리 친구 아이가 So yeah, it's a pretty famous city, pretty famous accent, pretty known for, you know, that kind of activity. It's as close as the hood you can get to in Korea. Now, do you see Korean rappers or hip-hoppers or K-poppers affecting the Busan accent to seem hood? No, you don't. Only the actual ones from Busan do it. Now, why could that be? Why? Because I don't know. If they did it in Korea, they know they would get their asses kicked. Probably by the Jopok dudes in Busan who aren't happy about these obviously not hood people acting like they're from the hood. Interesting. So to me, that would seem like they understand exactly what they're doing when they're appropriating Black culture. Anyway, some fun thoughts.
All right, so this is all the stitches I got from this, and let me know what you all think, because I absolutely want to read all your comments. I thank you all so much for all the support. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.